Well, this was quite an interesting U-turn and a very secretive U-turn indeed. This one almost literally came out of nowhere. In fact, beyond currently at the time that I'm doing this, NME, one of the big music magazines or news places in the UK, currently it seems to be the only news source for this happening. Now, what are we talking about? Well, since the start of January, the music industry has pretty much not had visa-free access to its to be able to travel. This causes huge problems for bands touring across Europe. They have to fill out forms for logistics forms. They have to fill out carnets. They have to do a ton of paperwork that before they did not have to do. And we're not just talking for one country, by the way. When this isn't, they fill out one form and then they can go for the rest of the EU. No, if they are doing like a European tour, every time they cross a country's border, they will have to fill out a whole new heap of paperwork. This makes it almost impossible for any smaller bands or many up and comers who literally do not have the manpower to fill out this paperwork, making it impossible for them to even tour the Europe, which is a huge blow to the music industry. And remember, the music industry in the UK is worth something about £6 billion compared to the, very small 1.2 billion fishing industry, which is still getting the shaft, by the way. Don't trust me. We haven't forgotten about the fishing industry. It's just at the moment, nothing has changed for them. They are still suffering. So don't think that I have forgotten about the fishing industry. They are still in the same place they were. There is nothing new to report other than things are just still as bad for them in the fishing industry. So let's jump into this article then. But before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So, as you said, this comes from NME. As you can see, the title, Visa-Free Touring Granted for UK Artists in Just 19 EU Countries, while the industry demands honesty from the government. The UK government has announced that visa-free touring has been negotiated for UK artists in just 19 EU member countries, while the music industry critics have accused them of failing to fix the real issues. There have been several months of very loud criticism across the music industry after the government has jeopardized the future of the touring of UK artists, while the Brexit deal secured with the EU failed to negotiate visa-free travel and Europe-wide work permits for musicians and crews. Again, huge blow to the music industry. This obviously came with fears and predictions that new rules and red tape would lead to musicians and crews facing huge costs to future live music tours of the continent, which could create a glass ceiling that prevents rising and developing talent from being able to afford to do so. Amid months of negotiations and inaction, the government has often been accused of treating the £6 billion music sector like an afterthought in the Brexit negotiations, compared to just the £1.2 billion fishing industry. Now, the Department for Digital and Culture, Media and Sport have announced that visa-free travel will be allowed for musicians and performers in just 19 European countries, while talks are still ongoing with the remaining nations. And like I say, this slid out very quietly. This slid out very, very quietly. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But yeah, it's very, very worrying that this just slid out and they've just quietly tried to edge this out. So the department said, we as the government have spoken to every EU member state about the issues facing our culture, our creative and cultural industries when looking to tour in Europe. A DSC spokesperson said that from these discussions, 19 member states have so far confirmed that UK musicians and performers do not need visas or work permits for short-term tours. These current countries are Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Poland, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Sweden. And of course, that's their tweet. So this literally slid out yesterday, and I've even I didn't see this until I saw this article. They continued, "We are now actively engaging with the remaining EU member states that do not allow visa and permit to touring, and call on them to align their agreements with the UK's new generous rules, which allow for touring performers and their staff to come up to the UK for up to 3 to 4 months without a visa. Formal approaches via officials and the DMC ministers said have been made to Spain, Croatia, Greece, Portugal, Bulgaria, Romania, Malta, and Cyprus. And we are working with the sector to try and amplify each other's lobbying efforts." The government added that they recognise that challenges remain around touring and that they are continuing to work closely with the industry. Of course, it's the government. Of course, this is an absolutely terrible statement at the end of the day and doesn't really fix the big issues. And of course, they go on to talk about COVID and, wanting it to recover well after. We'll see how well the music industry recovers after the COVID-19, especially the UK one. Like I say, it's going to be a massive shock to, I think, the music industry system. However, the Featured Artist Coalition and CEO Dave Martin was less enthused by the announcement, arguing that it is nothing more than we already knew. It remains that the UK's music industry is now far less in an advantageous position now than it was pre-January, Martin told NME. Despite the spin, this statement represents an admission of failure to fulfill the promises made by the government about securing our industry's future during the negotiations, failure to fix the issue, as per the PM's statement of March this year, the failure to provide certainty around touring in almost a third of EU countries, 8 months after the music industry was dealt a no-deal scenario. This summer saw the launch of the Let Music Move campaign, with the likes of Wolf Alice, Idols, Poppy Argenta, Radiohead, among the 200 plus artists, calling upon the UK government to urgently take action to resolve the no deal that had landed upon the music industry. Well, Elton John even went as far as calling the government Philistines for their approach. The Tory government's attitude was summarised by campaigners as sacrificing a $6 billion sector and its workers for Brexit and anti-free movement zealotry, which is exactly what they did. 100% exactly what they did. Spot on. Today, Martin claims that there have been no, quote, political representation in the Let the Music Move meetings on these issues for months, let alone any sign that the government is straining with every sinew to help our £16 billion sector. He continued, if there is an actual serious intention to actually fix the problems created by the government's failure in negotiations, they must start by being honest with our sector and the public about the current status regarding EU touring. At a start, the government must publish the full details on a country-by-country basis, outlining the exact requirements for touring and performers across all EU 27 member states. Meanwhile, the General Secretary of the Musicians Union, Horace Tunbridge, told NME, "We welcome the news and the current ongoing talks with 8 other EU member states. What we urgently need now is some movement on the carbonage and transport issues, in particular with relation to splitter vans. It remains unclear what the situation is with regard to carnets, whereby artists and crews have to fill in laborious paperwork for all their instruments and equipment upon entering and leaving an EU member state. It has been argued that smaller acts will not be able to afford the manpower to do so, and this will provide a huge logistical problems for less established artists." And again, for some reason, NME just goes on to repeat this that we've already seen. But yeah, good, at least. But like I say, this literally slipped out, shall we say, I think in the dead of night, and I think was done on purpose. This is why there's been no massive fanfare about this because it doesn't still fix the real issues, even though now these bands can now currently go and perform in these countries without a visa, which again is still a cost and still paperwork. They now have to fill out all different new types of paperwork, which is very laborious and manpower consuming. Like I say, if this is going to be a problem for industries like manufacturing industries in the UK, then of course this is going to be causing a huge problem with our creative and music industries as well. So once again, I echo the statements that the guy said there, that this does not fix the issues of the problem. And it still leaves a massive hole for the government to actually try and solve. And of course, they ain't going to go and solve these issues. I've been telling you that for a while. They don't really care about the music industry or even these creative industries because, well, it was never really a cultural battleground for Brexit. Like I say, that's why the fishing industry got so much pressure and so much attention. But even now, as we said, you might think, well, Bowler Hatman, you haven't done a video on the fishing industry for so long. That's because nothing has really changed in the fishing industry. They're still experiencing the problems they were experiencing from January. Nothing has changed for them. They're still facing all those problems. So, like I say, this is definitely going to hit the music industry. How hard? We don't know. It's definitely a signal to new bands and up-and-comers that they might now have to basically stop or thinking about touring in Europe altogether. And as you can see, this picture in front of us is a picture of a UK band touring in Paris in France. UK bands touring the continent, and especially the small up-and-comers, may just become a thing of the past. And that will be a very, very sad thing for UK music indeed. So, as always, please do hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all the people who do support the channel that way. And of course, we'll see you all